everybody, this is Higgy, and welcome to the No More Heroin Survivor Series. The Survivor Series is an original product of No More Heroin, and we showcase inspirational testimonies of people who have overcome seemingly insurmountable odds and are defying the odds by living and having a life of purpose and destiny after addiction. And tonight is no exception. I will introduce my very special guest from Rochester, New York. After we let the audience build for a little bit, I am going to play a song that she requested by B-Rain, All Wrong, which will be playing in the background.
My boy!
Hey, they never think that I was.
Hey! Hi, Stephanie.
I had to go and prove them all wrong.
Please share this out.
They never think that I was shy. Young boy in a bed to the bone in. Thought I knew it all, but I had to get a phone in. Locked up, mama, can I get a moment? I know you know, but I gotta show him. Yeah, I know I gotta do this. Down me now, but I'm throwing up deuces. In motion, gotta keep it moving. Give it a bit of time to stay in the solution. Drop top, gotta talk about the good brain. Got boys, but I tell them about a good thing. See the difference is that I got witnesses. Gonna testify that I'm a good man. Make it feel real good like a bow tie. I ain't worried about a cosign. Hold up, oh my. They never think that I was shy. Yeah, come on. I had to go and prove them all wrong. Come on. I had to go, yeah. They never think that I was shy. Ain't gotta speak to the world. Kindness that's free for the world. The kind of stuff we need in the world. Hoping I'ma bring some peace to the world. One man can't do it all. Shout out to Matt Lamore. Kendrick and the dude LeBron. Paved the way, too many more to come. Call that a game changer. We on the same page. Messages with the messages, homeboy. I'm just a maintainer. Put it down on plain paper. Stay up in your lane, hater. You don't want the smoke. I still got the flame a decade later. How many times they tell me? Boy,
love you, Steph. Neffy.
How many times they tell me? Boy, it just ain't your time. I've been here for like 6 years and they ain't never think that I was shy. Yeah, let's go. Come on. I had to go and prove them all wrong. I had to go. Yeah. They ain't never think that I was shy.
Ha! About that. How about that? Welcome, everyone, to the No More Heroin Survivor Series. Tonight, we have a special guest from Rochester, New York, Vice President of Hope Dealers BTC
Incorporated. Be the change. Karena Lee, welcome to the show, Karena.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's so good to see you. You know, we were just chopping it up beforehand. We've known each other for a while. We just have never really connected like this, and it's truly an honor to have you here. I have much love and respect for what the work you guys do in your communities of Rochester, how you guys are very transparent about your recovery and very accepting to multiple pathways to recovery. And you guys are boots on the ground in your communities, which speaks volumes for you as people, as community servants, and just the heart and passion you have to help anybody, anywhere, at any time, you know, regardless of their insurance or situation. You know, well, what's with the current state of affairs in the world today? What does Rochester look like today?
Well, it's a little scary. I think that everybody is probably feeling some feelings of anxiety and fear. So most businesses have shut down. However, I will say with the pandemic going on, I've never seen our community come together the way that it has. And I really feel like it puts things into perspective. It's given people the opportunity to actually slow down for a minute and see what's actually important in their lives.
Absolutely.
And I really think that it shows you like the people that are the actual essential workers, how important their jobs are, and them probably not being recognized enough for it. And myself included in that, because I'm an essential worker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People like us with organizations do what we do. We provide vital resources and leads, wherever possible, to people. And this is a health crisis, much like the opioid crisis.
Yeah, I completely agree.
It's both are taking a phenomenal amount of people out of this life. It's hard to wrap your head around. Hard for me to wrap my head around both situations going on at the same time, both endangering our recovery community, our addicted community. It's very, very, very difficult state of affairs. How are you maintaining your serenity, your peace of mind from home? What are you doing for yourself?
Well, it has been a significantly hard month. Before we were mandated to work from home, we were still working out of our offices, because I'm a peer advocate. So I work for an outpatient treatment facility, and I found out on March 16th that one of our volunteers had to be tested for the virus, and I was in very close contact with her. So I was automatically sent home for self-quarantine. So that was my first week of quarantine. Then my son ended up really, really sick, to the point where we ended up in an emergency, and that was really scary. They tested him for the flu, RSV, and pneumonia, and inevitably they ended up having to test him for corona as well. So then we were on mandated quarantine, which means you cannot leave the house at all. And that was difficult. It was scary. It was overwhelming. Thank God I had just begun my process of reaching out for help for my mental health, which I put off for a very, very long time. And I'm so grateful that I did it when I did, because that's kind of what allowed me to help process what was happening as it was happening. My son being that sick was really scary. He's never been that sick before. Thank God he ended up not having the virus, but it was really scary. At the same time, we had a flood in our house. So our basement, which is fully refurnished, is where our living room and our home gym is. We haven't been able to use that for like 2 weeks because we have to wait for the floors to be redone. So it's been difficult.
Well, for anyone else out there suffering with mental health problems, what advice can you give them? Because sitting alone with our thoughts when we have mental health issues, when we're supposed to be isolating anyways, what are some things that you could suggest for somebody else out there that may be struggling with their mental health to help them get through each day?
So for me, first, I started communicating with my boyfriend and my best friend what was happening, what I was experiencing. Hey, Perry. How it was affecting me in every aspect of my life. It finally, my anxiety and panic was affecting me to the point where I couldn't even do my job properly anymore. So my first suggestion is that you start talking about it to somebody that is close with you. And then the next step for me was contacting a mental health facility to seek treatment. I needed to be on meds, and I'm totally okay with that. I wasn't for a really long time, but I have an incredible counselor. I have an incredible support network, and I'm like beyond grateful. So please, if you are struggling, you can message me. Look me up on Facebook, Karena Lee. You can talk it out. If you're in Rochester, I know of plenty of places I'd be happy to refer you to, but please don't suffer in silence with it.
That's right, because our disease of addiction wants us alone, isolated, and broken. And my disease of addiction is intermeshed with my mental health, and they both speak to me in the same voice, my own.
Yeah.
And they want me alone, isolated, and broken, and tortured alone for as long as possible. And it doesn't have to be that way. The hardest thing is reaching out for help and letting people know that you're hurting. And so many of us, I'm the same person as you. I have those mental health issues. I have those voices in my head that lie to me and tell me things that I don't want to hear, but I tend to believe them. And it's all a fucking lie. Every one of us is deserving of a great life. You're deserving of love. You're deserving of respect and self-dignity. Don't believe any of the lies. Challenge those thoughts and talk to someone else. Get the help that you need. There's so many of us out there that suffer and struggle the same way. And you are a survivor. That's why I love having you on here, because you're a prime example of why I do this show. You're a survivor. You're an overcomer. And you are speaking out, you're being transparent. Like you said, like you told me before, I'm an open book. So tell us, where did this start for you? Take us for a walk down memory lane.
I can trace my my addictive behaviors back to being a child. And I mean that. I talk about this all the time when I'm sharing my story, because it's not until, being an adult and being in recovery that I can look back and recognize, so my grandparents took custody of me when I was like 6 years old. Both of my parents were in active addiction. So
love you.
That's
Christoph.
right, Christopher Perry.
Love you, Christoph. So proud of you.
My grandmother would give me those Flintstone vitamins, and I would always try to sneak back into the cupboard to take another one.
Me too.
So that's the root of it for me. As an adult, what I see now is that I struggled with significant abandonment issues, and I always felt not good enough because I grew up in a strict household. My grandparents were old school Italians, and I was an all-star athlete in high school. But for me, it began with just innocent. I started smoking pot, and then I started drinking on the weekends, and pretty soon those things became more important than showing up for basketball practice. And it started affecting my moods and my attitudes. And with my friends, we would go out and party, and I was always the one that didn't want to stop, where everybody else was drunk and pass out. My progression took me a really long time. I was diagnosed with cervical cancer when I was 15.
Wow.
So I had to have a LEEP procedure done, and that was really traumatic. Not really understanding what exactly was going on or what was really happening. So fast forward to me being probably 18 or 19. Throughout those years, we'll say 15 to 18, 19, I was kind of forced into mental health, because my grandmother was certain that I was bipolar, and I went through a lot of diagnoses, therapists, and a lot of medications that really messed me up, not in a good way. So I was given my first narcotic when I was 19. So that was Vicodin, probably, that I was prescribed. And around this same time, I was 19. So on June 3rd of 2007, I lost, at the time, the love of my life. He died in a drunk driving car accident as the passenger. Everyone else survived but him. And it was really traumatic for me.
It's tragic.
I feel like traumatic isn't even like a big enough word, because it like literally destroyed my entire world. That's probably the start of me beginning to abuse the medication. And it progressed for me immensely. I moved to Las Vegas because at that time in my life, that's where my grandparents had moved to retire. And I guess you would think that by moving to Vegas, that's where things went crazy, but they didn't yet. I still just started taking a few extra pills, still drank, still smoke. And then it kind of got to a point where I met this guy who really didn't do any of that. So I kind of just not stopped, but slowed down. Eventually I moved back home to Rochester, and that's kind of when I was introduced to snorting pills. And once that started for me, it just progressively got worse for me over the years. My grandfather then passed away. When he died, he was like the glue that kind of held our family together. And this was also a very sudden, he went into the hospital for a routine hernia removal. So that's like a really quick procedure. You're in and out within 24 hours. And it ended up being at the hands of like malpractice that he passed. And they nicked him. He was in ICU for 2 weeks, and then he passed away. So all of these like traumatic instances for me were just what allowed me to keep using to numb myself. So while I can kind of say it progressed for me kind of slow, it also progressed quickly. Because once I started snorting the pills, there was no going back to swallowing them. Sure. And I got arrested a couple of times in Rochester for like petty larceny charges. And in my mind, I thought, oh my gosh, I just got to get out of here. If I could get out of New York, I would be fine. So I reached out to my father who lived in Florida and asked him if I could come live with him. And he said, yeah. Now, the little back history to that is we had spent quite a few years trying to rebuild a relationship. So I was comfortable enough at this point reaching out to him. And I moved to Florida. I went there with a 3-month supply of prescriptions. So that's prescriptions of Roxycodone, Xanax, and Adderall.
Never travel without your supply, right?
I went through 3-month supply in 2 weeks and ended up detoxing in my bedroom in Florida, begging my dad to go buy me pills, and he wouldn't. That was, I guess you can consider, my first attempt of getting clean. But I didn't know I was an addict. I didn't know I was a person suffering with substance use disorder at all, as crazy as that sounds. So for like a month, I didn't use anything, but it was acceptable if I drank and smoked weed. So slowly, I started to do that again. And of course, eventually it took me back to snorting pills. My bottom for me was I was arrested on April 21st of 2015 for 5 counts of possession of a controlled substance. I had never been to jail before. And nope, that still wasn't enough for me. But I went to jail.
The progression of the disease is very apparent.
I knew I was going to get bonded out. I knew that I wasn't, going to stay. I was there for like 7 days. I got bonded out. The moment I got out, I got into the car and snorted. At this point, now I was snorting Dilaudids and Opanas. So, I snorted whatever it was. And that, I can say honestly, was the last time that I did an opiate. Because in my mind, what I thought was if I just stopped doing opiates, that was what the problem was. But I kept snorting the Xanax and the Adderall. And 3 weeks later, on May 20th of 2015, I was arrested on 22 felony charges.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot.
That's a lot.
And, but that's really what saved me. In those 3 weeks of times, in those 3 weeks, the 3 weeks up to the first arrest, I overdosed twice and had to be revived by Narcan. And that didn't even include heroin, so that's still a thing. It's still possible to overdose. So, yeah, I went to jail, and with all of those charges, the reality of what you're told is like, I was looking at 15 years of prison time. And that was like the low sentence. And I wasn't, but I didn't know that. I had already been fast tracked into drug court. And in the state of Florida, the drug court judge was really incredible about giving people the opportunity to change their lives. And even though I didn't know that, I still wrote him a letter, and I told him that I needed help. That while I was incarcerated, I went to my first 12-step meeting. And originally I just went to get out of the pod. Like I didn't really care what it was for, but it was in that meeting that there was this woman sitting in front of me who, like, she had an attitude like me. She talked like me, and she was sitting in front of me telling me that there was a better way to live. And as she was like reading the readings, I was just bawling, like hysterically crying, because that was the moment that I realized that I will say addict, but the proper term is a person with substance use disorder that was actively using. And that's when it changed for me, because that was the moment I decided that I don't want to do this anymore. And my judge absolutely gave me the opportunity to get help. He, in fact, let me even pick where I wanted to go to treatment. And I could have went to a 30-day, inpatient program, but I knew myself. I was a master manipulator, and lying was my specialty. So I chose instead to go to a long-term residential program that I will talk about for the rest of my life. It is called the Bridges of America, and where I went, my division was the Auburndale Bridge, and that is the program that saved my life. I spent 7 months in that program. Almost got kicked out of the program, but for some reason, which at the time I didn't know, but now I know, the director believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And she gave me another chance, and she made me stay an extra month. And that extra month is still to this day what I believe saved my life. I think that if I would have went home when I was supposed to, that I would have ended up relapsing, having a reoccurrence.
That's an angel showing up in your life at the right time.
Yeah. And not to discredit anybody that's ever, had a reoccurrence and come back, because thank God you did come back. But my personal story isn't that. Since I have come into recovery, I have stayed.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
People like you are so far and few between. More people have a story like mine, where we bump our heads more often than not. And the people that I have in my corner today, when I came back, they tell me, welcome back. I love you. Not like make smart aleck remarks or anything. The people that are in my corner that have helped me get to this point are just like you. So thank you.
Well, yeah, because if they don't, you need new people.
Absolutely. We let ourselves down in, more than anything else. I spent a lot of time apologizing to people for my relapses, and the people that love you, you never disappoint them. They're disappointed that we let ourselves down.
Yeah, so. I think that there's a lot of truth in that, because it's not like when I got out, when I graduated rehab. That's right. I see you.
I see you.
when I graduated rehab, I was still mandated to drug court, and then I graduated drug court, and that was another definitive moment for me. At that time, I was extremely involved in a 12-step fellowship. You know, I had service positions, and I was like hardcore about it. And the moment I stepped out of the courthouse on graduation day, that was the moment I had to decide, okay, do I really want this life, or was I just doing this because if I hadn't, I was going to end up going to prison?
We do great in structured environments, right?
Right. And I can still close my eyes and remember how I felt, because it was in that exact moment that I knew it like deep within me, deep seated, that I didn't want to go back, that I liked who I was becoming better without substances in my life.
All your reservations were gone at that point. You had done all the research that you needed. That's fantastic.
I would say for the most part, because I still, for the first couple of years of recovery, I still, and Chris Perry talked about this on our Hope Dealers Live tonight. I still really struggled with my bottom being relevant, because not unfortunately, but a majority of people that are in recovery's bottoms include heroin, you know, or IV use or homelessness. And my bottom didn't take me there. And I kind of struggled with, was that really a bottom? And I also struggled with, am I really never going to have a drink ever again in my life? So throughout my process of recovery, what I've realized is, I say this all the time because I really mean it. I could go have a glass of wine right now, right? Like I absolutely could. And nothing bad would probably happen. I would probably get drunk, you know, because I haven't had any substances in my body in almost 5 years. And that would be it, right? I would go to sleep. But my disease would start to work. And what would happen is I would tell myself, or my disease would tell me, well, nothing bad happened. You can do it again.
Right.
And it could take 5, 10 years or 2 weeks for the progression to happen for me. But eventually I would go back to doing pills. And I know without question that if I ever pick back up, that I'm going to die. There won't be a comeback for me. That's how bad my bottom was. I will not make it back. So it's just not worth it. And throughout my process, that's what I learned. So anytime I really struggled with thoughts of, am I never going to have a drink ever in my life again? Even though drinking wasn't really, of course I did drink, but that's not like what my go-to was. I would literally have to teach myself. Right. I would have to teach myself and just say, no, I'm just not going to drink today because I don't need to, nor should I want to. So it's been a process.
Mm-hmm. Almost 5 years though, right?
So by the grace of God, on May 21st, I will celebrate 5 years.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Drug is a drug. That's right, Mike.
Also, throughout my process, the biggest blessing, aside from, you know, coming to New York, back to New York and getting involved in Hope Dealers, is becoming a mother. So that's something that I never, ever thought would happen for me. I just I never even considered it. Ever.
Ever. But look at you, Mama. Look at you. You're almost 5 years clean and sober. You have a major role in a nonprofit organization, making huge differences in your community. You're helping other struggling alcoholics and drug addicts. You have a beautiful child.
He is beautiful.
and you're killing the game today. Why would you ever want to go backwards, right?
Yeah, I don't. There is no piece of me that ever wants to go back to living that life. That's why I said, like earlier, even when I was like struggling significantly with my mental health, I really didn't think I should go get high. I really just really sat down with Stephanie and was like, I feel like I'm going crazy. And I know that if I don't get some help, like it wasn't, I'm going to go pick up. It's, I'm going to end up like in a psych ward because I can't stop having panic attacks. So
I can relate.
I really just, I won't say that because, you know, like I said, my foundation began in a 12-step fellowship where, you know, you're taught to never say that you'll never pick back up. And even though I'm not a part of that fellowship anymore, I still do hold some of the beliefs really strongly. And that is one of them. So while I won't say, you know, I'm never going to pick back up, what I always do say instead is that I will be damned if I don't do everything in my power to prevent that from happening.
Well, I want to applaud you for your bravery and being transparent about, you know, reaching out for mental health support, because our disease is threefold: physical, mental, and spiritual. If any one of those three facets are out of kilter, our life is out of kilter. So addressing mental health is huge. You know, keeping yourself in good physical shape and addressing, you know, your spirituality. Would you want to touch on your spirituality and how important that is in your recovery?
So for me, it's God and the Bible. And I don't really believe in religion, so to speak, but for me, it is a very spiritual process. I pray a lot, and me and my boyfriend began every morning. We read this book, and it's called Little God Time for Couples. And then we also read the Jesus Calling book that's how we start our day.
That's beautiful.
And I haven't always done that, you know, like I've always gone back and forth. And of course I've gone through the whole, like, where are you, God? Why is this happening to me? And I've had to change that perspective of, instead of why is this happening to me, to what is this teaching me?
What am I going to do about it?
And am I listening? Because it's my own personal belief that my life already has a plan. And it's, of course, I have the free will to make my own choices. It's if I'm listening to make the right choice. I don't believe in coincidence. I believe in divine intervention. And I think that everything happens for a reason. And that reason is out of my control.
Absolutely. The time you've been in recovery, you have made some really major strides. You're getting out in your community. You're speaking at schools. You're speaking whenever possible out in the community, and I think that plays a huge role in personal recovery and connecting other people, empowering other people to fight for their life just another day. You know, give them the hope that they need, that it can happen for them too. You know, and a lot of us come into this recovery journey comparing ourselves to other people, like
Yes.
You were talking about. You know, well, my bottom wasn't that bad. I got a little ways to go, but honestly, our bottom is where we stop digging. You know, some of us have higher bottoms, but it's still a bottom, and it still affects us the same way as it does everyone else. You know, whatever substance we used, it doesn't matter. The way the substances we used and abused made us feel about ourselves is all the same. You know, that disconnect from God, the disconnect from everyone else, the disconnect from ourselves. I just applaud you for, you know, coming on here, sharing your story, and just being real and honest. I truly appreciate that. Can you tell us, well, what's your role with Hope Hope Dealers is?
I would love
How did
to.
you become involved? How did you become involved with the Hope Dealers and Neffy? I adore Neffy. I haven't met her yet.
Who
We've
you
spoken
telling?
a lot over the years. You two are like Bonnie and Clyde, only both female.
So again, this was divine intervention. It is mine and Stephanie's personal belief that her late husband and God are what brought us together. So when I first moved back to Rochester, I immediately began to try to engage in the fellowship that I had previously been in, and it was not the same. It wasn't the same at all. And no offense to anybody that attends. If that's your thing, keep doing it. Do your damn thing. Let me just say that.
Choose your path.
But it just, right. It was not working out for me. So I posted on just like a Facebook recovery forum that I was not new to the area, but that I had just moved back. My son was only 3 weeks old. So I was adjusting to being a new mom, a new single mom, and trying to rebuild a support network back where like my addiction began. And this wonderful guy messaged me. And of course, at first I was apprehensive because like, you know, a dude private messaging me, but he was incredible. And he was like, hey, here is this meeting. It's like a different kind of meeting. It's a bonfire meeting. And here are a couple of women that I really think that you should reach out to. And one of them was Stephanie. So of course, I Facebook stalked her, and I'm almost positive that day she was having a memorial birthday celebration for Justin, and she kind of intimidated me a little bit at first. So I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna message her. But eventually I did end up messaging her, and we messaged for quite a bit, and then she had her first table event so in Rochester, there is another not-for-profit organization called SOARS. And Becky Baker runs that. And she has this huge event every year in memory of her son, Scott, that we lost to a overdose. So this was Stephanie's first table event. So I told her that I would meet her there. And I got there, and I love you, Neff, but she was a hot mess. Table events were kind of always my thing. I worked in sales, in retail and cell phones for a long time. So I had a lot of experience with table events, and she was so kind of like all over the place that I kind of just like looked at her and I was like, can you get out of my way? And she said yes. And I asked her to kind of like give me a rundown really quick of like what her, you know, purpose was. Cause at this point, we hadn't even done a cleanup yet. And her whole purpose was just to provide another network of support for people and to not let her husband be another stigma or lost person. So,
lost in vain.
Right. I ran the table for her, and that kind of just like bonded us. And we've been inseparable since then. My position with Hope Dealers came with work. I came to the very first cleanup and went to every one for quite some time. We very quickly saw how much the community was in need of cleaning up the sharps because they were everywhere. So when we began to try to get organized, I first was nominated as part of a board, but I didn't have a title or anything. I was just like an officer of the board to try to help them get organized. And we were trying to have monthly meetings and trying to figure out what steps to take to turn this into a movement. And we met with and I'm just going to throw names out there because I don't think that they would mind, but we met with Yana from Recovery Fitness, which is another huge staple in our recovery community out here. There are a sober community that has a gym, and they do all kinds of exercising and activities. They're incredible. So we met with her to get some advice on how we could move forward into becoming an actual corporation. And eventually what ended up happening is I was dedicated. I always showed up. I was always there for Stephanie. And when we began paperwork to actually like unify and become incorporated, the vice president at the time stepped down, and they unanimously, actually, quite frankly, Stephanie messaged me and was like, would you consider being the vice president? And I was like, no. Because at the time in my head, I was like, that's way too much work. I can barely handle my life working with my child.
Right.
And the rest of the board unanimously voted me in. So then once I found that out, I was like, oh, so I kind of have to.
I have no choice at this point.
Right. So, but that's just my title as a board member. So me being the vice president of the organization, what that means is that as a board member, it's our job to create all of the policies and procedures that we put in place to protect the volunteers. My title in general day-to-day operations is vice president of operations. So my divisions that I oversee are our outreach division and our Hope line and our CARES program. And I have, we have employees, but none of us get paid, you know? So we finally were able to become an incorporation first, and then we received our 501c3 charitable status. So we are, you know, a registered not-for-profit organization recognized through New York State. And that was a lot of paperwork. It was a lot. It took us a lot and a long way to get where we're at.
It's good stuff.
It is. And we do a lot more. We are known as the people that do needle cleanup. And
every Sunday behind the AutoZone.
Well, yes, we are the people that do cleanup. We do so much more than that. So again, my division is outreach. So I have a whole team of volunteers and employees that come out at the same place we meet for cleanup every Sunday. Well, we'll say before the coronavirus, we met every Sunday between 9 and 10 a.m. And we set up tables. We provide clothing. That's right. In less than a year, we were recognized as not-for-profit of the year, and we're granted an award for that.
Speaks volumes for the work you do in your community.
So,
and just, you know, you guys go into abandoned houses. You clean up all of the syringes and drug paraphernalia. Offer hope to anybody that are resources to anyone there. You provide hygiene kits.
Yep.
You feed them. You know, you have. I've seen you guys set up and serve sandwiches. You know, and pass out Narcan, things of that nature.
Yep. We are also a recognized opioid prevention program. So all of our employees are certified Narcan trainers. So we also were, up until we had to change our operations because of coronavirus, doing Narcan trainings every Sunday and giving out Narcan. We give out clothing, hygiene, condoms, and lunches, or even food if we have it. We have a 24-hour Hope line. That's 585-633-8690. And we have volunteers manning that Hope line 24 hours a day.
Put that number in.
What was that?
I was asking Neffy to put the hotline number in the comments so I can share it.
So that number is for multiple purposes. So if you're struggling with addiction, mental health, and you're trying to get into treatment, you can call us and we'll do an intake with you and try to get you into treatment as soon as we can. It's also if you're just struggling and you need somebody to talk to, or if you're interested in volunteering, you can call. We use the Hope line for multiple purpose. Sometimes people call just for somebody to talk to. Sometimes people call because they want to donate and they don't know how to go about doing that. So we are also working on a program to start implementing into the schools into Monroe County, and our incredible director of see, now I'm going to mess up. Director Jason Dorfy is our director of education and outreach, right? I'm pretty sure I got that right. So he is who is actually in charge of putting that program together between me and him. We will develop that program and try to launch it into all of the schools into Monroe County. And we have a whole harm reduction team as well. So you'll see him in these comments, Gary Harding. He is our director of treatment services, and him and Patrick Burns is our harm reduction coordinator. That's right. So this is just the beginning of what you will see from Hope Dealers and what's going to happen for us, because we won't stop.
That's so amazing. You guys have such a team that's full of heart and passion, and you guys, I see the same people every Sunday on your videos doing the same thing, you know, just trying to help anybody and everybody by any means necessary. And I just love that. I love that. I can't wait to come up and spend some time with you guys.
We would love that. We're so sad that we had to move the walk back, and really, Higgy, that's what it's about for us. Is when we say meeting people where they're at, we mean meeting people where they're at. A majority of the population that we're trying to help are homeless on the streets and living in abandoned properties. And we don't approach them with judgment. We don't force them to try to get into treatment. We give them our bracelet with our hotline number and give them a hug and tell them that they matter, and tell them that when they decide that they're ready for help, to call that number, and whoever is, scheduled to answer that call will navigate them through the process of getting them into treatment.
That's awesome. That, that creates that connection aspect that every addict is missing in their life. The connection to compassion, kindness, love, hope. You guys reaching out into those lost, broken souls that were, I was one of those, that connection was missing in every aspect of my life. And once that connection was reestablished, then the hope begins to flow that maybe I am meant for more than this. And this is not where I want to be with my life.
And what I found in my own process too is listening for that. So thank you, Nicole. Just back in, we'll say September, October. At this time I was working for Strong, which is, anybody who's from Rochester knows what Strong is. I worked for Strong Memorial Hospital in the pulmonary department, and I loved my job. I really did. I loved my job. I loved the people I worked with, but I also wasn't really sure where this was going to take me. And I was offered the opportunity to go and work for the treatment facility that I hope I don't get in trouble, but it's Huther Doyle. So if any of my employees are watching, don't be mad, because you should be happy I'm shouting you out. But I was approached with an offer to work for Huther Doyle, which is an outpatient treatment facility. And
people need to know about that. Why? There's no reason to hide it.
I know. And it's not like I'm on the clock, so really it shouldn't matter. And this is the truth of it. when I first got that message, my very first thought and what happened, I was like, here it is. Like, this is it. But it was immediately followed up with, I don't know if I can do that. Stephanie had just got hired there. So it's like, come on. Not only, do I get to like run an organization with my best friend, but we would get to work together. And I like struggled at first with making that decision because the benefits that are offered through the university are unmatchable. And I had a really hard time. What I had a hard time of letting go of is if you have been with the university for 10 years and you have a child, they will pay for 95% of your child's scholarship for college.
Good for you. That's an amazing benefit.
Well, hear me. What I'm saying is that's what I ended up walking away from.
Oh.
But, right. So that's what made it hard for me to walk away from that, because I knew if I put my time in at the university that my son Legend would be able to go to whatever school he wanted to. But what helped me make the choice was, for one, me praying about it. And for two, me realizing that when I was 18, like, I wasn't going to college. Like, by the time my son is 18, he might want to pack up and move, to Alaska for all I know, because he wants to go ice fishing. I have no idea who he's going to be at that age. But what I do know is that if I'm not a happy and healthy mom, that will affect him. And I knew that God was telling me to take the leap of faith. So I walked into my supervisor's office at Strong, and she was an incredible person in my life. And when I told her what the opportunity was, she started crying with me, and she said, "This is your calling. And as much as I want you to stay here because you're incredible at this job, like, I would be wrong to tell you not to take this position." And that was just another confirmation for me. So I did. I took the leap of faith and I left the university. And then I went and started all of my classes to become a peer advocate, to become a Serpa.
So the leap of faith has turned into a power move.
It is the greatest job I have ever had, because not only am I like following my dreams, it's like, like my first month, and even still now, it's like, I can't believe this is what I'm getting paid for. Like, I get paid to do this, because in all reality, if you really think about it, it's what we already do with Hope Dealers, just on a little bit of a different level, and I get paid for it. So I meet people where they're at. I get to attend groups. I go pick up clients and I take them to meetings, or sometimes they just need somebody to talk to. So, my job is to support and advocate their recovery, whatever that might look like. There's a lot of people that don't agree with Matt. They don't agree with people that don't attend 12-step fellowships. And I have my own beliefs, but when it comes to me being a peer advocate, whatever my client believes is going to work for them, I will graciously stand next to them and advocate the F out of it for them, because they have their answer. I'm just there to support them while they figure out their answers.
That's great. That's great. I'm so proud of you. I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see what the future holds for you and Neffy and everyone involved with the Hope Dealers.
I'm telling you, just stay tuned. Please keep watching, because
I bring back the radio show.
So what I think will end up happening is it will be more of a podcasting versus a radio show. Unfortunately, that's something that kind of had to take like a back burner with everything else that was going on. Especially once this happened, because right now we're not operating like we normally do.
True.
So right now on Saturdays, we have 2 teams go out in their vehicles And these are people that have been in isolation together. So that's the only reason why we technically allow them to go out together, and they go out gloved up, masked up to give out lunches and to provide Narcan training still. And then on Sundays when we would normally be operating, now mind you, we've been doing this for 3 years. So we have people that are already there waiting for us to set up. And this has changed that. So our way to still let them know that we're there without physically being there is my incredible, I would call her assistant sidekick, I'm not even sure, Tara. She pre-makes bags that they're backpacks that have our logo and our phone number on them, and in them she puts in the hygiene kits, the lunches, the Narcan. And every Sunday she goes and on a big, what do you call them, like tarp, she will just leave the backpacks there. So that way the people that are depending on us are still seeing that we're trying, but we also are still following CDC guidelines.
Absolutely. One thing, Christoph, could you post the link to the group and the page in the comments for us, please? Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. Thanks, Chris. And that's why, thanks to you, let's be real here, our software that we were hosting lives when it was more than one person was, and I only say a little bit difficult because we have incredible people that work in the background that people don't see. And they were the ones that were running the platform for us. And we only wanted to try to do something different so that maybe if they weren't available, we could still be hosting these lives. And thanks to you and you helping us get onto StreamYard on this platform, we have been able to start hosting our own series of lives every day. Because while the coronavirus is absolutely a pandemic and it's scary, what's even more scary is that the people that are still suffering, that are actively in their active substance use disorder, are being pushed to the back burner. And that's really scary. So it was extremely important to us as an organization and as individuals in recovery for us to find an alternate way to keep engaging with our community. And now we can.
That's beautiful.
So now we host lives every day.
I'm glad to see that.
Thanks to you.
No. I'm honored to play a small role in what you guys are doing in your community. I'm honored to call you guys friends and support you any way I can, because people need to model what they do. There's people out there that want to do something real and viable for their communities that don't have any idea. And to see genuine people doing real work that's making a difference, they can model what they do after what you guys are doing, because you guys in Rochester, New York it's the largest open air drug market, which means that there's a lot of drug activity out in the public in plain sight. And it's so highly concentrated and so prevalent that it's hard to combat. It's hard to save anyone and pull them out of the grips of addiction when that is so readily available. So you guys go in, boots on the ground, with a whole lot of heart, a whole lot of passion, compassion, kindness, and caring, pull people out of the grips of addiction, and you're saving who you can. And I just give you so much props, and I'm grateful for what you do for your community, for people like me.
Thank you. It's also for us too. I think that for a majority of us that are in recovery, this has become a staple for us, and it helps keep us grounded in our recovery as well. There is, and even in this right here, what we're doing right now, if me sharing my story or what I'm talking about has helped one person feel like there is hope for them, then my job is done.
That's right. Yep. Create, again, connection. Connection is the opposite of addiction. And that gives people more hope than anything else, knowing that there's someone else that made it out and is living this amazing life that enables them to have this amazing life, yet reach back for the next struggling addict. And that's such a powerful, powerful testimony.
It's been quite the journey.
Well,
really.
We're at about an hour. Would you like to say anything in closing? You know, anything you see on the horizon, and any kind of a hope shot you want to give to anybody out there that's struggling in addiction? You know, maybe contemplating relapse, has relapsed. You know, what could you say to encourage them to reach out?
So, well, first on this platform, I just, the first thing that I really want to say is I want to thank my boyfriend, Nicholas Sweltz, because without him, I would have never taken the leap of faith to follow my dreams. So he plays a huge role in
Good job, Nick.
Who I am and who I am continuing to become. So I just need to say that out loud. And for anybody who is out there that might be listening or feels like maybe this is my bottom, maybe this isn't my bottom, or you're feeling like this is relatable to you, the one thing that I can promise you is that on the other side of fear is hope. And if you take that leap into the side of hope, you will not do it alone. The life that you can live outside of your using will be beyond your wildest dreams. That is a real, raw, honest promise that I can make to you, because what I am doing and where I am at has exceeded any expectation that I ever had. And all you actually have to do is take the step of saying, hey, I need some help.
Oh, yeah.
Call our Hope line. Oh, that's my honey.
Hi, Nick. Nice to meet you.
Call our Hope line. Even if you're not in Rochester, we will do our damnedest wherever you're calling from to try to figure it out or navigate it, because that's what we do. All you have to do is be willing to admit that you have a problem and then be willing to ask for help. That's it. That's it. Those are the only steps that you need to take. 24 hours a day, 585-633-8690. And if you're scared to call, you can text. You can send out a simple text. You can message our Facebook page. You can private message me personally. But I will continue to say, you know, anytime I'm on a live feed, anytime I'm with a person face to face that is on the fence about it, but wants it, is you do not have to walk through it alone. You know, that fear of what is my life going to be like without using is what keeps us using. And if you just have one person standing next to you that means it when they say, hey, I'm going to walk through the fear into the hope with you, will change everything. And we, any one of us will be that person. We will be that person.
That's pretty powerful. It really is. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to jump on here. You did an amazing job. I'm truly honored to have you as a guest. Have you in my network of people. I really love what you guys are doing. I hope to emulate what you do in the future. And
you are so incredible. You don't even know the amount of love and respect I have for you. It is an honor.
Thank you.
An honor.
Well, maybe we'll get Neffy on here next time and get maybe somebody else from your team, and we'll have a roundtable discussion about something sometime.
You know we're all about it. We're talkers. We will run this.
Running is tough. Well, I love you, my friend. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for all the comments and love and support you give to each other in the comments during these live feeds. It's so important and so vital for people to know that there people are recovering from this hopeless state of mind and body and having a life of purpose and destiny. I love you all. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, everybody. And Higgy, really, thank you.
You're welcome. I hope to meet you in person soon.
It's happening.
More sooner than later.
It's happening.
Love you, Neffy. I love you, Christoph. Call me tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
Good night, everybody.